2026 is a decisive year, not a passive one. This is a year of initiation, embodiment, and most importantly, follow through. If you are not ready to move, get out of the way. If you can't take the heat, get out of the kitchen. We've been in a phase of receptivity, of incubation, if you will. And 2026 is the first year in a series of years where we're coming out of incubation. The gate is open and the fire has been lit. The question is, are you ready? So in this video, I will be discussing the core themes, astrologically speaking, for 2026. So you know exactly what can transpire this year and how best to work with the energy. So if you want to know more, stick around. You definitely don't want to miss this. Hello, my loves, and Happy New Year. Welcome to 2026. Who would have thought? Remember how 2026 or even 2020 or even 2000, depending on how old you are, sounded so futuristic? But here we are, and the future is now. Now, I am filming this a couple of days into the new year and posting it at that time for a very specific reason. And I will be getting into and fleshing out the concepts behind that reason throughout this video. However, suffice it to say, there is a lot going on. We've talked about how society has been like a dumpster fire, and we are seeing that fire being the operative word for this year, being lit, an explosion. We are on the brink of chaos and madness, and there's a lot going on. There's a lot of that will persist this year. And please understand, this video is not to fearmonger. It's not to get you afraid or fearful or not wanting to do anything. This is a year of action. However, how you go about taking that action is going to be everything, because you have to decide whether you want to be proactive or reactive. The energy is ripe for both, but the consequences that follow for each of those are quite different. So you have to figure out how you want to do this year, how you want to experience this year. Okay. Also, I'm releasing these videos now, and this is, just in terms of logistics, I'm doing this general forecast, right? And then for the next 12 days, I will be doing each sign individually. The purpose of which is to get you to really digest this. At first, I was like, I should have put this out in late November, early December, or it should have been ready for January 1st. But there's a lot of noise. And I don't do things just to do them, nor do I want to put anything out there that no one is going to consume. So, in that vein, I want you to take your time with this. I want you to be able to fully digest this. These aren't going to be super long videos, but they are going to be thorough and they are going to be value packed with information that you need for the year. So, hopefully, some of the noise of the new year, new me has calmed down and we can really get down to business. And that's exactly what this video is about, but also what 2026 is about. All right. And so this video is going to give you 6 themes that are going to transpire based on the astrology for 2026. I'm not really concerned with dates or anything like that. That information will follow as the year unfolds. But this is what the energy is going to feel like, and more importantly, what to do with it. So without further ado, let's jump right in. At the outset, one of the things that I really want you to hone in on and understand about the energy of 2026 is that all of the outer planets, so we're talking about Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, all 5 of them are going to be in masculine signs. What this means is that it is go time now. We've spent a lot of energy in sort of that feminine incubation phase. And there was a great reason for that, because we have to structure the inside before we can take action on the outside. So hopefully the structuring you've been doing over the past 3 years with Saturn, 14 years with Neptune, Okay. And then, well, Pluto went into Aquarius in 2024, but before that, it was a decade plus that Pluto was in a feminine sign as well. So that was our call to address our inner world, to restructure our inner world. Now, whatever that inner world is looking like, now we're taking that version of ourselves out for a spin, and this is the year for action. This is a fire year as well, not just because it is a fire horse year, but we're going to have 3 of the outer planets in fire signs. That's Saturn in Aries, Neptune in Aries, Jupiter in Leo. Action is one of the operative words for 2026. Expression, because we've got all of these planets in masculine signs. So whatever you've been working on, it's time to go out into the wild with it. Again, we're not being reckless, we're not being too impulsive, but we're not waiting to feel good. We're not going to necessarily meditate and overthink on everything before we take action. We take action and we course correct as we go. But that masculine fire energy, like I said, if you can't take the heat, get out the kitchen. Or at least move aside for the people who know where they're going. Because here's the thing, I really do feel like people are going to be steamrolled if they're still on that incubation kind of vibe, right? This is one of those years where this isn't about perfection. This isn't about something has to be fully developed before we take action. Take action and course correct as you go. Theme number 1, 2026 is the year of initiation. And this has everything to do with the numerology for this year, as well as the Chinese astrology. Now, I am nowhere near well versed in Chinese astrology. Okay. I kind of follow it just like a regular consumer. So I am not, qualified enough to go into it in detail, but it does bear mentioning because of the astrological energy for the year. But we'll get into the astrology in a second. But 2026 reduces to a number 1 in numerology, and that is all about new beginnings. It's all about initiation. It's all about the fire of initiation. It also signifies leadership and action, okay? This is not a year for waiting to feel ready, okay? This is a year of do and then recalibrate, okay? The one thing that I want you to understand about this year is that action creates clarity. This isn't a year to seek clarity before doing. This is sort of a year where you gain clarity as you do, okay? So, leadership, action, initiation, that's very much a part of the energy signature of the number 1, okay? Now, in terms of the Chinese astrology, and this doesn't take place, or at least the beginning of this new Chinese astrological year does not begin until February. However, we are entering the year of the fire horse. And you can pretty much imagine what that energy is and what it'll probably feel like. Okay, this is about courage, it's about independence, and most importantly, it is about momentum. Okay. Now, the one thing that it also means that we really need to pay attention to is that it's not even just about movement and momentum, it is about fast movement. And fast movement requires discernment. This is going to be super important and is one of the reasons why I sort of decided to put these videos out when I did. There's a difference between fast movement, being reckless, and fast movement as a result of discernment. There's going to be a lot of opportunity to move fast, but in a reckless sort of way. Now, you may think this sounds contradictory because I was just talking about how, you got to take movement and clarity comes from movement. That is true, but things can get reckless very quickly this year. And so rather than sitting and waiting for clarity and mulling over things and overthinking, get to moving, but bring your common sense and discernment with you. Because crashing out is a real thing this year and it's going to happen fast. Before you blink, the action that you take has already caused a crash out or a wreck. So it's really important that you are discerning while moving quickly, while gaining momentum, okay? Also, commitment is rewarded. And so it's not even just about moving about recklessly and doing a whole bunch of things. Commitment and the ensuing action pursuant to that commitment is going to be rewarded. Okay. Now, hesitation is going to keep you miles behind everything that is happening. And this is important to remember because although we're trying not to move recklessly, we're also not going to stay hesitant, stay small, and stay limited. It's going to put you even further back than you anticipate. Okay. And the other thing that I want to mention in terms of this year being a year of initiation is that 2026 is not going to respond to half decisions. And this is sort of where commitment comes in. It's not about moving and being like, oh, I don't know. This is like, listen, this is where I'm going. I'm moving toward that. Decide fully. Don't straddle the fence. Don't hesitate. Be sure of yourself. Move and then move quickly. Okay. That is the most important thing. And this is how we are going to initiate things. This is how things are going to get started this year. So in this year of number one numerology and it being a fire horse year, move and move quickly, but not recklessly. And hopefully that didn't go over your head. Theme number 2 is what I like to call the identity reckoning. And this has everything to do with the astrology, specifically Saturn and Neptune entering Aries. And they're both going to be doing so in January and February, respectively. Now, we got a preview of this in 2025 because for a hot second, both Saturn and Neptune went into Aries and then dipped back into Pisces. So 2025 was the year where we were sort of one foot in the old, one foot in the new. Now, 2026 is the year where we are both feet in the new. Now, what does it even mean that Saturn and Neptune are in Aries? Saturn and Neptune are very two distinct energy signatures that, when you look at it from a textbook standpoint, they almost cancel each other out. Saturn structures, it builds structures. Neptune dissolves structures. And with both of these planets being in the sign of Aries, Aries has a lot to do with our identity as individuals. Aries is the first sign of the zodiac. It is the first fire sign. So we're not only initiating things, much like theme number 1, right? Where it's like this fire of initiation. We are forging new identities. And what this means and what this feels like is that you are structuring a new autonomy. You are becoming autonomous within yourself. Or I should say, the energy is ripe for that. To you to really stand on your own 2 feet, to understand who you are, and to create a structure for yourself where you can foster a new identity. Neptune at the same time is dissolving old illusions of who you used to be. So if this feels unsettling, it's okay. It's kind of supposed to. You're creating a new identity while automatically dissolving an old one. And I want you to embrace both. Neptune in Aries also wants you to have a new dream, a new vision. And then Saturn in Aries helps you structure this new dream and this new vision. Okay? So this is a prime example, or this is prime and ripe energy for all of us to forge new identities for ourselves, to be new people. But it's going to require you to let what is no longer in resonance with you, what doesn't make sense anymore, what you no longer identify with, you have to let Neptune dissolve that. The harder you try to hold on to it, the harder it is going to be to move forward. Okay? So it's really important that you think of a new dream, allow the old one to dissolve, and then put in the work, because Saturn is definitely the work. Put in the work to structure this new identity, to give it form. Neptune gives you the dream, Saturn gives you the form. So use it for that, to craft a whole new identity. It's a wonderful opportunity to be who you know yourself to be, rather than to rely on how people see you or what people think of you. So it is indeed an identity reckoning that's going to require you to embody this new identity. Remember, I said Saturn is all about putting in the work. So the work is going to be embodying and living this identity. But the beauty of this year, you can completely begin anew as the authentic version of yourself. Now, before we get into theme number 3, I just want to remind you that these are just the general themes that we'll all be experiencing as a collective, right? How these themes play out in your life is determined by where all of this is happening in your natal chart. And if you want to know what 2026 looks like for you specifically, then sign up for my 2026 year ahead reading, which is called The Next Chapter, where we will go through these themes and much more in a very detailed way based on your particular natal chart. So if you're interested, that is linked to the video, and also you can find the link in the description box to schedule your reading. Now, keep in mind, I only do this reading for the first 2 months of the year, so spots are very limited. So if this is something that you're really interested in, secure your spot sooner rather than later, because by the end of February, I won't be offering this service anymore. Okay, so now theme number 3. There are going to be mental and narrative upgrades, and this is very much thanks to Uranus entering Gemini. So Uranus spends about 8 years in a sign. And so for the last 8 years, Uranus has been in Taurus, and that's been like a bull in a china shop, getting us out of our comfort zones. Now, Uranus is going to start to wreak havoc in our minds when it moves into Gemini. Now, this may feel one of two ways. It could either feel mentally jarring, it could feel scary even, or it could be a way to jailbreak your mind. Now, it's going to require some mental agility and flexibility on your part, because it's going to require you to be open-minded to things that maybe you were not open-minded to before. This is a transit over the next 8 years that's going to help us to think differently. It's going to help take us into the future. Uranus is one of the co-rulers of Aquarius, and Aquarius is the sign of the future. So not only is technology going to ramp up even more than it has over the last couple of years with Uranus and Gemini, our minds are going to be expanded in ways that we probably never even imagined, okay? And so again, it requires mental flexibility and agility, because the way that things are going to be happening, it's going to be quite disruptive. This is not even just going to affect how we think, it's going to affect how we communicate, how we express ourselves. You know, Gemini is the sign of curiosity. It's the sign of expression and, specific skills, among other things. And when you're with Uranus there, old patterns are going to be disrupted. So how you express yourself, how you communicate, maybe even the sound of your voice is going to change. How we ingest information that's available to us is going to be disrupted in a way that's going to take us into a future. So when I say the word disrupt, I don't want you to think that it's just going to wreak havoc in your life in a negative sort of way. That can be the case if you're not mentally agile and if you're not open-minded. However, we're moving into the future. And rather than get left behind or get dragged, stay open-minded so you can experience this in a way that won't be too negative. Okay? This is not only the age of Aquarius, this is a complete mental breakthrough. And so once this transit is over, the way that we communicate, the way that we speak, the way that we express ourselves will definitely look a lot different than it did in the past. But 2026 is the year where all of this begins. So again, stay open-minded and stay mentally fragile. Not fragile, agile, mentally agile. Important distinction. Theme number 4 is what I like to call visibility and creative expansion. And this is thanks to Jupiter moving into Leo mid-year. Okay, so Jupiter spends about a year in each sign. And since 2025, mid-year, Jupiter has been in Cancer, the sign of its exaltation. And then this year, Jupiter is going to be moving into Leo. And Leo energy, it's heart-centered, it's warm, it's generous, it's creative, it is expansive. Well, Jupiter itself is expansive, but Leo is expansive in its own right, meaning that it likes to expand our ability to express ourselves. And this is going to be the theme, at least for the second half of the year. Creativity, authenticity, warmth, generosity. There's going to be plenty of opportunities for expansion when it comes to these things. Now, of course, it depends on wherever Leo is in your natal chart. However, this is going to feel like, at least in my opinion, the saving grace from all of this on fire, impulsive, and crazy kind of energy that we're already feeling in 2026. Although Leo is also a fire sign, there is a warmth and a generosity and a childlike ness to it that'll feel good, that'll be sort of a reprieve from everything else that we are feeling this year. Now, the other thing about Leo is that it is about visibility. So many of us may be called to be more visible, to express ourselves authentically in a bigger way, on a bigger stage. So don't be surprised if the universe kind of pushes you, and maybe not even so gently this year, to be more visible, to be seen, heard, and to take up space, because that's exactly what Jupiter is going to be doing in Leo, and that's what Jupiter in Leo is going to want to do for you in your life. So prepare to be visible, prepare to really tap into your creativity, and prepare to expand yourself in a very creative and authentic sort of way this year. Theme number 5 is what I like to call faded course corrections. And this has everything to do with the eclipses this year. So, eclipses, at least the way that I like to think about them, is that eclipses are like different chapters of a story. And that chapter is typically dependent upon where the eclipses are happening. And they always happen in sister signs or signs that are opposite from each other. So, since early 2025, the North and the South node, which is where the eclipses take place, have been in Virgo and Pisces, respectively. And this year, after 18 months of being in Virgo and Pisces, the North and the South node are going to move into Aquarius and Leo, respectively. So we're starting a whole new 18-month cycle in terms of eclipses and the things that happen in our lives. And this story is going to be highlighted wherever you have Aquarius and Leo in your natal chart. So, eclipses are the universe's way of moving things around in our lives. It's sort of when we relinquish control and let the universe take the wheel. And so when it comes to the North Node in Aquarius and the eclipses in the eclipse in Aquarius this year, it's going to be about the collective. It's also going to be about sort of finding your own individuality, where you fit in society as an individual. Whereas the South Node in Leo is sort of going to have us moving away from being so on stage and main character and sort of finding our place in society, finding our place within the collective. This is the story that's going to unfold as the North Node moves into Aquarius, South Node moves into Leo, and we progress over the next 18 months. But this year, we are also closing out the story of Virgo and Pisces. This is the axis of healing, it's the axis of service. So, who have you been in service to? Have you been in service to yourself? Have you been in service to humanity? Also, Virgo and Pisces is the axis of sort of real versus fantasy, physical versus spiritual. We're closing that chapter of this story out and we are starting a new one. But either way, we are subject to fate. We are subject to the universe, and not in a way that's oppressive. It's a way that's truly helpful. So, this fated course correction that we're experiencing this year has everything to do with the eclipses and the new story that's unfolding and the old story that is concluding. And finally, theme number 6, which is what I like to call the future pull. And this has everything to do with the North Node in Aquarius. So, Aquarius isn't just the sign of the collective, it's the sign of the future. And it has a very evolutionary, energetic signature. And so, we as a collective, because we're talking about the transiting North Node, not just the North Node in your particular natal chart, but this is talking about the evolution of the collective and moving into the future. Okay. Now, Aquarius is not only ruled by Uranus, but it's also ruled by Saturn. And Saturn is the planet of structure, right? I talked about Saturn earlier when I talked about Saturn moving into Aries. Now, because Saturn is one of the ruling planets of Aquarius and the North Node is going to be in Aquarius, there is this underlying energetic current of new structures, structures that are going to be enacted and are going to take us into the future. And that obviously means that there's going to be quite a bit that needs to be left in the past. And so when we're experiencing these upheavals, because again, Aquarius is also ruled by Uranus, and Uranus is the planet of surprises, it's the planet of sudden changes. There's going to be sudden changes, and those changes we're going to feel them very viscerally, especially once the North Node moves into Aquarius in August. Okay. It's important to remember that these upheavals are not for no reason, they are taking us into the future. And if your future self wouldn't co-sign it, if your future self doesn't have room for it, if your future self doesn't resonate with it, then it's got to stay in the past and it's got to go. So as we're experiencing this upheaval, we are creating new structures that move us into the future. So one of the questions you really need to focus on this year is, what would my future self do? Follow-up questions would be, what would my future self think? How would my future self react? But this is the year that you think ahead to who you will be. And remember, this works in conjunction with Saturn and Neptune in Aries because we're forming new identities, and these identities are being pulled into the future. So, again, what would your future self do? That is the question for 2026. So here are my final thoughts on the energy for 2026. Number one, it's a year of initiation. So initiate something. All right, this is the year to really start something. But here's the rub. We're not just starting willy-nilly. We're not just starting randomly. We're starting from and from the place of the person we would like to be. Because Saturn and Neptune are going to be in Aries, right? We are crafting new identities. So any action that you take should be in furtherance of this new identity. So we're kind of laying to rest who we were and we're taking action from who we are becoming. Okay. Number 2, action clarifies purpose. This isn't about thinking of your purpose and ruminating on your purpose, then taking action. The action will show you or reaffirm or confirm your purpose. So action is going to be necessary. And again, we're not doing this recklessly. We're doing this from the person we are becoming, okay? You don't need certainty this year. You need commitment. You need to know the destination and commit to the destination and then take action steps, baby steps, even sometimes, in furtherance of that commitment. But certainty may be a little lacking this year. Not to say that you're not going to experience certainty, but the commitment will reaffirm the certainty. But if you're looking for certainty before acting, baby, this is not the year for that. Okay. So we're taking action, we are initiating, we are getting certain and purposeful as we take action, and we're doing this all from who we are becoming. So my tip for you, especially at this time right now, spend time crafting this new identity. Don't take action first. You need to have the destination and the commitment in mind. If you're committing to your future self, what does your future self look like? How does he or she act? How do they think? What do they want? What do they not want? What do they tolerate? What do they not tolerate? I want you to build yourself from the outset and then do everything in accordance with you version 2.0 or version 3.0 or version 20.0, depending on how old you are. All right. But I think that those are your marching orders. All right. And so I wish you nothing but the absolute best for 2026. This is the year of change, the year of radical change. We are jailbreaking our minds, we're crafting new identities, and we are moving into the future collectively and individually. All right. If you want to know more about what 2026 has in store for you, sign up for my 2026 year ahead reading. Or stay tuned, because over the next 12 days, I'll be going into each sign here on YouTube. I also have some resources to help you further cement and really acclimate to the energy of 2026. So stay tuned for that. If you haven't set notifications or subscribed, what are you doing? You're going to love it over here. This is one of the best places to learn and implement astrology in your everyday life. All right, my loves, thanks so much for tuning in, and I will see you in my next video. Take care and happy 2026.